Thank you guys so much for coming. I just want to take a quick minute, introduce, I'm Shane, my wife's Sarah back there behind the phone. We're the new race directors for the Lake to Lake. We've been involved with Peggy on the race for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years in some capacity. And a few years ago, she started asking around to see if we were interested in taking it over, and through a lot of back and forth, we finally agreed. I like a lot of things. We've been in the race directing business now for probably, I don't know, 9, 10 years, something like that. Down in Loveland, mostly. We also do the Longview Marathon. If you guys know Nick and Brad with our runners, we partner with them for that race. So we've been around the racing industry for a long time, and are excited to keep the Lake to Lake going. I was just telling him the lake is filling up and started filling up Thursday. So we're very excited to see that. And excited to partner with Jake. He's been working with us now for a while and bringing these clinics around. So I'm going to just turn it over to him and let him run with it. He's a teacher, so he's got handouts for you. And he's actually, I'm going to plug him a little bit too. He actually is a coach, a really good triathlon coach. So if you're looking for a coach to get ready for Lake to Lake or any other triathlons you may be doing, make sure you get his information. I think you've got stuff. Yeah, cool. So make sure you get with him after. But thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
All yours, man.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you, Shane. Yeah, as Shane mentioned, I'm a high school PE teacher, and this week's been hectic at school. Done so much public speaking, banquets, and end of year things. So this is actually very fun for me to do a triathlon clinic because it's something a lot easier rather than speaking in front of the whole school. Yeah, I've been doing triathlon for nearly 8 years now. When I got into it, I had a running background in high school. Come on in, guys. And yeah, no swim background, which is funny because the swim has become my favorite part of the race, swim and bike. But my theory on triathlon is this idea of marginal gains, where if you make little differences throughout all these aspects of your race, it can add up to big changes and pay big dividends in the course of an entire triathlon. So my goal today is just to walk you through what I would do approaching Lake to Lake. I've done the race several times. Back in 2021 was my first year after moving to Fort Collins. And I think I've learned all these little tips and tricks that I hope I can help you all out. By show of hands, who has done a triathlon? A couple of you guys. Who has swam open water? Okay, yeah, that's usually the scary part of swimming, as you mentioned, buoys getting shorter. Yeah, swimming is certainly the biggest trick of the tri. So you get through that part, get out of the bike, gets a lot easier, and then everyone's pretty comfortable out on the run. So I'm gonna give you guys some handouts as we walk through kind of what I do throughout the race. So we'll take some, pass it down. So once I register for a race, kind of first thing I do is go check out the course. We're thankful enough to be here in Fort Collins where we can drive the Lake to Lake course. I'm sure you guys are somewhat familiar with it since you're registered, but it's nice to get on the course and train on it and get to know all the ins and outs. Starting at the lake, go out, I think it's 29th Street, is that correct? Go out to the park, and then there's a couple little turns there. I like, when learning a course, to ride these technical sections and go over them once or twice. Oftentimes when we go out for a bike ride, we will typically just ride a route once. But I think it's useful to go through some of these turns and take them 2 or 3 times, where you take them a little faster each time, where you go down the hill a little quicker and then turn around, come back up, and get some repetitions on each turn. I know there's a couple sections in the first part of the race before you get on 34. There's a turn, I think it's Glade Road down there by
Wild Lane.
Wild Lane off 34. I recommend checking out all
right before Glade Road.
Yep. It's a little tiny road that you turn off 34 on. I recommend checking out some of these sections and riding them 2 or 3 times on a single ride, where you practice cornering them faster and faster each time. I lived in Florida throughout my undergrad, and I did crit racing, which is little lap bike racing. And I think I learned the repetitions of cornering over and over made me such a better bike handler, where in a triathlon, oftentimes you're not going over the same part of the course more than once. You just do the big lake-to-lake loop. But if you can practice each of these turns several times, it'll help for sure. I think coming off Glade Road onto up by Horsetooth Mountain Park, that's another good section. I'm sure you guys are familiar with going around Horsetooth. That's a beautiful part of the course, but riding that frequently will help, certainly. Let's see. Okay, kind of the week before is when I run through my gear check. So I will get my bike ready. Kind of first order business is wash my bike. I'll also put race wheels on the bike. Let's see what else.
Do you
I
have
try to
to
address any mechanical issues. We got Dakota at the shop here. He can take care of all your race needs, but if you come to him the day before with some bike tech issue, he may not be able to get to it. So I try to take care of all my bike tech issues well in advance. And then the week of the race, it's just dedicated to getting bike ready and having no other mechanical issues. So that could be replacing tires if needed, maybe new chain, greasing up the chain, etc., things like that. Prior to race morning, I like to have a backwards schedule where I know what time I'm going to arrive, what time I wake up, what time I eat breakfast. For me, that looks like getting to the race 2 hours to 90 minutes before. That gives me plenty of time to arrive, set up transition area, warm up, get all my ducks in order. Breakfast, I'm eating about 2 to 3 hours before the race. So I think it's 7 a.m. start. I'm up around 5 to 5:30, eating breakfast after that before 6 o'clock. I find out what works for you. Everyone's different with nutrition, but I recommend taking, that month before the race and every Saturday, run through a practice where you're out the door at 7 a.m. each time you go out for a ride and practice eating that same time before your race. That usually helps me. Let's see. When I arrive at a race, the first thing I do is go get my bib and check-in registration. So when you go to check-in, you will get an anklet, that's your timing chip. They'll do some body markings. They do that this race, correct? Yep. Body markings, and then
They'll do that at the transition area on race morning, but you can pick up your packet the night before as well.
Okay.
Which is when you're going to be doing the Q&A.
Okay. So.
And transition is open from 5:15 a.m. until 6:45, and then that's when it closes. So you have that time frame to go and get your transition area set up, which is he'll talk you through what that should look like.
Yep. Yeah. First thing I like to do is go get registration, check in. You can do that the day before as well, but oftentimes they will not let you into transition area unless you have a number on your bike and then your body marked and have your chip. They try to limit transition area of only the people racing, so other spectators can't come in transition area and float around. So first thing I'll do is go check in, get my, do we do bike numbers?
Yeah.
Yep, so we'll have a sticker that will typically go on the bike. I like to put my bike sticker back here on this little box that has spare tubes and a flat kit. If not, if you don't have one of these, you can hang it on the frame or wrap it around right here on your bike. I believe that's the only one Lake to Lake does, right? Just one bike number.
We have one bike number, you'll have a helmet number, you'll have a bib.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Then helmet number, typically you put it on the front of whatever kind of helmet you have, just right here. And then I have an example bib on the floor there with my race belt. So entering transition area, have to have your numbers on your bike and helmet. And then I try to separate my gear into 2 different bags. I'll have all the gear I bring into transition to set up for T1 and T2, and then all my swim gear in another bag. So I'll have a bigger bag like this that has all my transition gear, and then I keep a swim bag that has all my wetsuit and swim cap and goggles. I like to keep it separate, that way I don't get confused, because in transition, the easiest way and most stress-free way to go about it is to not overcomplicate things. Only bring in what you need. So, for me, when I enter transition, I'll have my race helmet, I'll have any nutrition that goes on the bike. I'll usually put a gel inside this little bento box. If you don't have one, you can easily tape on top of the top tube. And then for lake to lake, I'd be carrying 2 bottles just like this. I'll have a bottle right here, and then a little bottle on the front. I've also run bottles behind the saddle. I know Rutter's Roost probably has some bottle cages. You could rig up something behind the saddle, but for lake to lake, I can get away with just the 2 bottles, being it's a 25 or 30 mile bike. Next, let's think.
And we'll have two aid stations out on the course as well.
Okay, where are they on the course?
There's one kind of on the county road before you go up Horsetooth, I believe.
Okay.
And then there's one on the sprint course. I think it's close to Trilby, but don't quote me on it. It's on the map, and we'll be finalizing all of those exact locations, and we'll be emailing everyone with all of that information pre-race.
Yeah. My golden rule in triathlon is to try to carry everything you need. You never know if the aid station will have exactly what you want. When racing, a longer distance race like an Ironman, you go to grab a bottle, you might miss it on the bike. So I try to be self-sufficient as best I can and not totally rely on what's out on the course. So when I get to transition, Lake to Lake does not do assigned transition area. They have racks for the Olympic race, they have racks for the sprint race, but it's open transition. So it is a little bit advantageous to get there early and then have first dibs on where you're putting your bike. With that said, I don't always try to put my bike at the very end of the rack to avoid a crowd, because that's where the crowd goes. Everyone wants the best transition spot right at the end of the rack to get out on the bike course easily and not have to run with your bike as far. So sometimes I'll go a little bit inland and avoid the crowd. When you rack your bike, you would be typically racking it on your saddle. We just have this rack here, but imagine a bar that's horizontal like this. I would go underneath and then rack the saddle and hang my bike just like this. That way, when you're coming into T1, you can take your bike, bring it underneath the bar, and then run out. Question?
So is your bags and stuff in the same place your bike is? It's all in one
It
place?
is, yes. Yeah, when I set up, typically first thing I'll do is just find a transition spot, rack my bike like such, and then I can show you how I put all my things. So as we run out of the swim, first thing I'll do with my swim gear is take my goggles off and then work on stripping down my wetsuit. I try not to take off my goggles and cap right away, because I want to have some free hands to get the wetsuit down to my waist while running. The run for transition from the swim edge to T1 is probably a quarter mile, so you have quite a bit of time to get your wetsuit down. But I want my free hands. I don't want to take off my cap and goggles right away and then have to hold them while also taking off my wetsuit. When I get to transition, then I'll drop my cap and wetsuit. I'll first drop cap and goggles on the side, and I'll work on getting out of my wetsuit first. And I'll typically just leave my wetsuit, cap, and goggles right on the side of my bike. I'll have my run gear on one side, and then my swim gear that I'm stripping on the other side of the bike, just like this. Bikes are typically racked every other direction on either side of the rack, so you'll have someone next to you on either side. However, they are not going to be pressed right up against you. You'll have a little bit of room, and not everyone's coming out to swim at the same time, so it's a little more spread out. It's okay. I'll work on getting my wetsuit off. Next step is I'm putting on my helmet. I do not touch my bike until my helmet is strapped. That is a USAT rule. Dan Frost, he does some USAT officiating, and yeah, that's, what is that, 10-second penalty? If you are moving your bike without.
We can talk to Warren and that. There are penalties, but for something like this, the officials or everybody who's going to be out there, they'll just stop you or at least get your attention to say, hey, your helmet is going to bounce off if you don't
strap it. Yeah. So golden rule is helmet strap before I'm touching my bike. It's funny that to practice doing such thing, but strapping your helmet coming out of the swim is something I recommend practicing. You would think it's easy, but in the excitement and nerves of a race, getting this little strap to click is sometimes tricky.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, the rule will say, put on your helmet before you grab your bicycle, and it's not because there's something tangibly wrong by doing grabbing your bicycle and putting your helmet. It's just like now your hands are already full with your bicycle, and you're trying to push it out, and everybody's around you. It's like, take care of that sort of stuff when it's like less stressful, and like you say, when you come out of the water, your fingers don't have as much dexterity as they did when you started swimming before the race. So when it's like Jake is suggesting, there's sometimes a good order to do things because it's easiest to do it that way.
Yeah. Similar to having that race schedule set days before, I like to have systems, and this is my system. Strap the helmet before touching the bike. Yes.
Question on numbering. So in the swim, we're going to have stuff written on our arms.
Yeah.
Then when we transition to the bike, do you typically have it on the strap because you don't wear your bike jersey when you're running? Or do some people just put the number on their jersey and then wear that through the run? Or like, is there any?
Typically, I'll have a tri-kit, so you don't have to carry your race belt on the bike. Okay. That's something I'm putting on the run.
Putting on when you get to the run. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you already have the number on your bike and on your helmet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. You do not need to carry the bib on the bike. It's just to identify yourself on the run, because the bike identification would be on your helmet and then on the bike frame.
And does the number have to be on the front or the back, or does it matter?
I would suggest putting it on the front, and here's why. Because we're using Run Sign Up, you're going to get free downloads of all the pictures that you find of you.
Oh, and then it tags you.
And you can look up pictures by your bib number. Our photographers aren't going to get your backside; they're going to get your front side. So. I know.
Yeah, I've been working hard on it.
When they see me, they'll be like,
You gotta pay extra for the backside.
My cheeky thing that I do is keeping the bib on the side, and anytime I see a photographer, I might slide it over so I get identified, but I try to keep it kind of out of the way.
That's a veteran move.
Yeah. Do it long enough, you get to know where the photographers are and little tricks, but yeah.
You gotta pay
So, helmet-wise, my personal helmet that I use has this visor, so I'll put this on once I get out on the bike. This serves as my sunglasses. Just little fancy sunglasses, but if I'm not using an aero helmet, I would take like my other helmet and then just have my glasses inside of my helmet like such. So goggles drop, wetsuit stripped, step out of my wetsuit, then I would put on glasses, helmet, then I'm taking my bike and going.
You don't wear gloves.
No gloves, yeah. Yeah, I guess you could if you want to. If they make you feel better and you can get them on, sure, but
It's a time.
yeah, typically I'm not gonna spend the time to put on gloves. If it were a cold race, I certainly would. And I think I have in some really cold races where I have gloves in my helmet and I'll put them on for arm warmers. But fingers crossed, Lake to Lake is gonna be plenty warm. So racing in the cold is not always fun.
Do most people wear wetsuits for races?
Yes, yeah. I don't remember what the water temp
So the
was.
water temperature is gonna be between 72 and 74 degrees. So you don't have to wear a wetsuit. It's not a requirement. It's a preference.
Yeah. I think the wetsuit legal temperature is 76. So if it's right at that cusp of like 75, 76, you might be warm in the wetsuit, but you also get a good advantage of having that buoyancy while swimming. And if you're not the strongest swimmer, I would certainly take that advantage. If I weren't wearing a wetsuit, then I would just swim in my tri-kit for this race. And that would be plenty fine too, being it's a shorter swim with an Olympic or a sprint. But, yeah. So I mentioned I put on my helmet, then I take my bike and go. That is because I have my shoes rubber banded to my bike and already strapped in. I don't necessarily recommend doing this in your first race, but it's a nice little trick to do. If I weren't having the shoes on the bike, I would just have them open and strap my shoes. Coming out of the swim, your feet may be wet. You can have a towel down on the ground to wipe your feet. Another nice way to slip your feet in the shoes is with baby powder. It serves as a dry lubricant. I would just sprinkle some baby powder in my shoes, and that helps slip my feet in so they don't get stuck. I would do that for both my running shoes and my bike shoes. I always bring baby powder and a couple other little products I'll talk about later to help aid getting things on and off. You can wear socks if you want. I've actually never loved wearing socks with these bike shoes, but I'll almost always put socks for the run. But these bike shoes are pretty comfy without socks, so I've always been okay without them. Next, after your helmet is strapped, your shoes are on, and you are ready to go, you have to run out to the mountain line. It's nice before the race to check out, as you arrive and rack your bike, where the bike in and bike outs are. There'll be a swim in, it's going to be on the side of transition closest to the lake, and then the bike out will be closer to the parking lot in the high school. You will run out through transition, and then there will be a line on the ground that you cannot cross, or you cannot ride until you cross the line. So you will run with your bike up to said line, and then you can step over and start riding. If you ride before that line, then again, it could result in a 10-second penalty.
Well, and it's also dangerous because there's like if I recall, there's a speed bump kind of in that area. You need to get past that point before you mount your bikes. And then it helps with the congestion of everyone coming out of transition to go out on the bike course, because then there's also going to be people coming in, depending on which distance you're doing. So there's a mount and dismount section. You need to make sure you pay close attention to that.
Yeah. When I'm running up to the mountain line, I want to ensure my bike is in a low gear so I can get started right away. It's a good consideration. I think I included that on my little checklist. But I make sure my bike's in a low gear before mounting it, and that way I'm able to get on and start pedaling right away. It's the worst feeling when you're at a stop sign or a stoplight and you're in the hardest gear and have to get going. As I mentioned, check out the course the week before leaving Loveland High School. Goes out on 29th Street. It's a little bumpy there, but just be mindful. It's the beginning of the race. You don't want to derail yourself by slipping or crashing or anything early on. I just try to ensure on the correct side of the road, taking a smooth line through all the turns, avoiding any debris, etc. Coming back into transition, the same rule applies with the mount line. When you're heading into T2, you cannot ride past the mount line. You must come to a stop and have 1 foot off the bike before you're crossing that line. So I'll typically, I wish we were outside so I could show you all flying mounts and whatnot, where you're running, jumping on the bike, but typically I will swing one leg over the bike and then while riding, just step off and then go right into a run as I'm coming up to the mountain. Coming into transition with T2, it's a little bit easier than getting off the wetsuit. So I will rack my bike the same way on the saddle. You can also rack your bike on these front brake levers. I always have some trouble though getting it over my wheel, being my handlebars are low and close to it, so I usually go for the saddle. Then helmet comes off. I'll unstrap my helmet and just leave that on the floor. My shoes stay on the bike since I will unstrap my shoes and then just step off barefoot. But if you just unclick, you can run with your bike shoes through transition, rack your bike, and then unstrap your shoes, and then you will slip into your run shoes. I recommend run shoes. You put bungee laces in them. You may have heard of these before, but they are rubber laces that allow you to slip on your shoes easily. It saves time compared to tying up your laces. I think runners should have some. Yep. Right there, perfect. Yeah, it's a good little addition and can save time and ease T2. Once my run shoes are on, what I would do is grab my glasses, my bib, and maybe a gel for nutrition and set out for the run. You can start running before you have this on. You do not need to have this strapped on before you start. So this is something I can do on the move. It's one of those marginal gains where anytime you're making forward progress and not staying still, that's better. So my glasses go on, I take my bib, I strap it on the front. There it is. So I'll have the bib on the front, and then I may put a gel in my pocket. So.
And there will be an aid station as you take out on the run. There'll be an aid station there as well.
Yes.
If you need to grab some water, something like that, some hoist, you'll be able to do that as you take out.
I referred to pockets. You may know what a tri-kit is, but this is similar to a bike kit where you have bibs on the bottom and then jersey on the top. This is what I would wear, and it has these pockets built in, which are nice. Is anyone familiar with tri-kits? No? Yes? Okay, so these things will save a lot of time. I'm sure runners sell them as well.
Yeah, we have some up front.
Yeah, but a lot more comfy than racing in a t-shirt. Someone asked earlier about putting the bib on the bike. Personally, I would go with the tri-kit because it's a little comfier, it's easier to swim in. You don't have to put on that second or a t-shirt in T1. If you're just wearing this the entire race, it'll save time and ease. These things are comfy. They have little built-in pockets that you can put some nutrition in on the bike and the run. So I certainly recommend this. Plus they have the chamois that is comfy on the bike, saves you from chafing. Let's see. Some other little tricks that I've used over the years. With my wetsuit, I would typically put on a little bit of baby oil. I keep some baby oil in a jar and put that over my ankles, and that allows me to slip the wetsuit off easier. Similar to struggling with the bike strap, your hands don't work as well. The dexterity is long, lubricant, baby oil to allow the wetsuit to slip right off. It saves me a lot of time and it's very helpful. If you're not using a wetsuit, no worries. Don't need to worry about that stuff. with my swim gear, another thing I consider is the tint of my goggles. I typically bring 2 different sets of goggles, a clear set for a cloudy day, or a tinted set if it's very sunny. I'm swimming right into the sun. Who here has struggled with foggy goggles? Most people. One trick I use every time I get into the pool is I put some baby shampoo in my goggles. Okay? It helps reduce fogging. You can try it next time you go to the pool, but I would always use this for a race, and I nearly use it every time I get in the water. I take some eyedroppers, fill it up with baby shampoo, and then dilute it a little bit with water. And then I would take my goggles and just drop a couple drops, swish it around, and then they will not fog. It gives you about an hour of swimming without foggy goggles. As long as you don't touch the insides with your finger, because oftentimes your finger has oil on it, and that's what's gonna cause the fogging. So that's a trick I've used for years, and makes swimming a lot more enjoyable when you can see what's going on around you in the pool. So. Okay. Wondering what other questions you guys have for me?
I have a question. Can
Sure.
you show exactly how your transition area will be set up?
Yeah.
As far as, are your shoes going to really be that far away? Are they going to be closer? All of the gear, just so everyone can kind of see how it will look?
Yeah. Look like this. And then when I'm coming in to strip my wetsuit, I would drop my wetsuit right here next to my bike. I would drop my goggles and swim cap right here, my leg-to-leg swim cap. Just drop it on the ground, and then I would take helmet on, take my bike and go. And I would just step over all of my gear. And then I'm leaving for the bike.
So you've already got the baby powder and the shampoo are already done, and it's outside of the transition?
Oh yeah, none of this is here.
Perfect.
All of this goes in my bag. This is all I'm leaving right here.
Yeah.
Yep, when you're out on the bike, I'll have a pile of my swim gear, usually a wetsuit turned inside out, and some goggles and cap on the ground, and then my bike or my run gear next to it.
Yeah.
And then when I come back in, I'm looking for my run gear. Generally, I mean, I know where my transition.
You put the socks on when you put your shoes on for your run?
Yes. Yeah, so I'll have some socks set up on top of my shoes. That'll be the first step. Socks on, then I slip my shoes on. If you're putting socks on for the bike, they'll already be on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
When I come back in, just rack the bike like such, helmet off, drop my helmet, and then I would slip on my run shoes quickly, slip, and then grab my things and go. And that's it.
Nice.
Yep.
Another thing to be mindful of, whenever you get your packets, you will be given a swim cap, and that is the required swim cap that you have to wear for the race. So you don't need to go and make sure that you have your own. You have to wear the one that's provided for you.
Yep. Swim caps are color coordinated by the wave. So if you're in the first wave, it may be blue, second wave might be green, such. Question?
Yes, I'm kind of confused about the aid station on the run. Is it just at the beginning, or is
Oh
there
no,
one-
there's multiple aid stations throughout the whole thing. But if you're like, I'm thirsty and you didn't grab water and you're like, you see it when you leave, you'll just know as you leave the transition area, you'll be able to grab some water leaving and coming back. But there's multiple all along both race courses for the run. Yeah.
That first aid station is just as you leave transition. If you're familiar with Bamforth High School there, there's a hill that you go down. It's before that hill in the grass there. Yeah.
Just to help wet your whistle as you leave.
What other questions do you guys have? Yes.
I was curious about nutrition.
Yeah.
Is there a general, I know it varies very much from person to person, but is there like a general, like you should be taking on X amount of nutrition per 30 minutes of the race?
Sure, yeah. I would say maybe like 50 to 100 grams of carbs if you can per hour. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I've done races where I've taken much less, and then sometimes on rides I've taken in a lot more.
I see.
So I think that's something you should experience. Get a good feel. Oftentimes when we're exercising at a higher intensity, we're not able to consume as much carbohydrate as you could for an easy ride. So really just depends on you personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have like preferred nutrition? Is it just goos, or do you have like a preferred?
I use the Morton mix. I like that.
What's that?
Do we have any Morton behind there,
Absolutely.
Kat? Yeah. Yeah, so like Morton gels.
Oh.
This one's caffeinated, this one's not. I think it's 100 calories in one of these and 25 grams of carbs. So yeah, I might take one of these before the start. As I mentioned, I'll always have my overnight oats for every race. I think I eat it almost every day. But overnight oats I'm eating like 2 to 3 hours before, and then I'll take a gel maybe 15 minutes before the swim start. When I get out on the bike, I'll have some drink mix. Morton also makes a drink mix. I'll put that in one of my bottles and maybe have water in just the other. And then might have one of these in my pocket, and I would carry this throughout the entire race. Even in the swim, I would keep a gel in my pocket with my wetsuit on. If it was a non-wetsuit swim and I was just swimming in my triathlon kit, no wetsuit, then I wouldn't carry this in the water. Might lose it. But then I would just keep it in my box here. And then I would have a gel just like this on the ground with my glasses and my bib. So once my running shoes go on, I would just take all that and then start to run with it. Yeah, I try not to overcomplicate nutrition. If you feel like you need it and you're running low on energy, then take something in. If not, don't force it, especially when you're just figuring this out. Yeah.
Just so you guys know too, our official hydration sponsor for all of our events is Voice Hydration. So that's what we'll have on course for you and at the race hub. So I always tell people that 9 times out of 10 you want to use on course what you train with, but if you need something, just know we have Voice for you. It's great hydration. They're big in the military. But that's who we'll have there for you as well.
Yeah. What other questions you guys have? Yeah.
This race is zero drive, is that right, on the bike?
Yes, that
And
is
then,
correct.
So what are the rules, like proximity wise, like do you have to offset or echelon, like if someone's like within your pace or something?
I think it's 12 meters now that USAT follows.
That's correct.
You correct me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then you must pass on the left and stay to the right-hand side of the course. So much like driving a car, stay on the right and then swing over to the left to pass. And then you have 30 seconds, I believe, if someone passes you to fall out of that draft zone.
You're not gonna remember that, right? So last year I had, I'll just give it a brother and sister are coming up. They're doing their first race and they want to ride together. And I don't think anybody has any problem with like riding together. What the reasons the rules are there is we don't want anybody to be like riding the entire course behind somebody and getting a draft. It's like, it's supposed to be an individual effort type of deal.
But you have to slow down as
but
you pass.
but we know you're probably competing in the race with somebody else that you won, and you're working together, and that's fine. I think as far as like penalties or anything like that, the only things that really are going to irk everybody here would be somebody like Jake, who's trying to come up from behind and can't because you and your sister and everybody else are lined up across the width of the road and he can't get by to do his race. Or you're seeing somebody riding right behind somebody and they're doing it for the whole 30 miles and getting the easy tow the whole way.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, are you saying that
you don't need to remember like
you
whole
can't ride
rules.
side by side though? Or
You should not ride side by side.
okay.
Yes. If you're gonna be with a friend or ride with somebody else, stay within shouting distance.
And then
And again, this is just a courtesy. Let the fast, everybody is going to be coming through this race with with a big range of talent and a big range of, some folks just want to finish, some folks want to win money or you know, set a personal best time. And we've got room on the entire course to do all of that. So I would just say, don't ride side by side because you know it's illegal. Don't ride side by side because give the courtesy for your fellow athletes, participants, to be able to go by if they want to go by.
I guess, is there neutral aid if you just bring in everything real flat kit and everything like that for the course?
We do have a bike mechanic on course.
Yeah, there'll be actually 3 of us. I'll be on the sprint distance, driving around in our runners and track mount multi sport van. I can't do a ton on course and I help fix flats, if you drop a chain and stuff like that. If you break your bike, I'll drive it back to the start. It's very limited of what I can do, sort of thing, but I am there to help flats if you need help or anything like that. And then on the Olympic distance, there are these two others circling, just kind of going back and forth, helping doing the same thing.
But we should plan on just bringing all our flat kit and everything, probably anything.
Yeah. That's usually what I
Because
recommend.
they're gonna basically be making laps, so if you go flat and they just miss
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I try to help as many as I can, but like you just said, if I do miss you, that I'm gonna be in Loveland while you're out up by the church still.
Yeah.
Only do so much stuff.
And they will be, and Dakota's gonna talk here in a second about some bike maintenance stuff too, but just kinda on that note, we are gonna have some folks at the race start, so if you show up and a pedal fell off or something weird happened, they'll be able to kinda help you out there. Again, quick stuff, not like total bike.
Yeah, we can do like on the spot sort of stuff. If you show up with missing a wheel, which I've had, I won't be able to really help you. But yeah, just like stuff like that. If you need just some air or you need something adjusted, I can do that for you right there.
Yeah. At a minimum, I would plan on carrying a tube, a CO2 or a pump, some way to inflate your tube, and maybe a small faulty tool that you can fix down the road if anything goes wrong. Yes.
So this will be my first, and do you have any tips in swimming in the water